one or the other cases.
Good evening, hello and welcome. You're watching CNN News 18. This is Nation at 5 with me, Poonam Burde. We have some breaking news coming to you from London. And this is about staff being evacuated from the US Embassy in London due to a security threat. The embassy is reported to have been in a state of lockdown, with those inside told to duck and move away from the windows. They're given to understand that all of the staff has been evacuated after a suspicious item was recovered. Siddhant, my colleague, is joining us for more details. Yes, Siddhant.
Gathered some information regarding this the situation in London, where US Embassy is in a state of lockdown, was in a state of lockdown. And just a few hours back, there was one suspicious package which was found outside the US Embassy, and immediately the calls were made to the security team, and the entire embassy was evacuated. It was declared in a lockdown state, and in fact, people were asked to stay away from the windows of the embassy. This is what the media houses in London are reporting. Also, we have this confirmation that few minutes back, the embassy has returned to a normal state, and we're being told that investigators are investigating who has kept that suspicious package, and now there is no risk for the people in embassy. So this we can confirm that a few hours back, the US Embassy in London was in a state of lockdown, and in fact, all the diplomats there at the embassy and the other staff members were asked to stay away from the windows, and they were even asked to duck down and to be at the safe place. Now we are getting this confirmation that the entire area has been cordoned off, and in fact, the security teams have reached there. They have opened the packet, and they have found nothing. So the embassy is back to the normal operations, and now investigators are looking into the matter. And in fact, the best teams have been deployed as far as this one case is concerned, and they are going to find out that who has kept this packet outside the US Embassy in London.
Right, so there was a security scare, but all's well now. For the moment, Siddhant, thank you so much for getting us the latest. But do stay on with us, because as we shift attention to our neighborhood, and that is in Pakistan, which seems to be battling crisis from all corners. Wrenching economic calamity is resulting in cascading crises in the country. As per our exclusive inputs to CNN News 18, top military commanders have now written to the Army General Headquarters that there isn't enough money to feed the soldiers. Even as that happens, on the diplomatic front, Pakistani Prime Minister Shahbaz Sharif has issued instructions to the Foreign Ministry to slash down the number of foreign missions abroad and reduce their offices, their staff, and cut down expenditures by 15%. Half of Sharif's cabinet is already working without a salary. That is the kind of crisis, the economic one at that the country faces. Sources further claim that Pakistan is mulling slashing salaries of government employees as well. They want to reduce the count of federal ministers and curb the expenditure of ministries and divisions. Now that is on the economic front. As far as terror is concerned, Pakistan has time and again claimed that they have been fighting terror, but it is an open secret that terror groups and terrorists flourish in Pakistan. And there is yet another example coming to the fore of that, of terrorists roaming free in the country. Hizbul Mujahideen chief and designated terrorist Syed Salahuddin was spotted leading funeral prayers in Rawalpindi on Tuesday. Now, he was attending the funeral of a self-styled commander of Hizbul Mujahideen. He was shot dead by unidentified assailants in Rawalpindi. What's interesting is that the place where this funeral was being held, this designated terrorist was leading a funeral prayer session in a burial ground that is under the Pakistani army, which means that the Pakistani army has been giving him complete support. Again, no surprise. According to sources, Pakistan's defense minister, though, has now blamed the former Director General of ISI for the rising terrorism in the country. He says the parliament is expected to summon Faiz Hamid as well for his role in stoking terrorism in the country. But can that responsibility be pinned on one particular person, given that the military establishment in Pakistan and successive civilian governments are responsible for their support to terror groups on their soil. But listen in to this admission that came to the fore from the Defence Minister of Pakistan.
As Minister of Defence, ख्वाजा साहब क्या आप डिमांड करेंगे कि जनरल फैज को पार्लियामेंट में बुलाया जाए?
देखिए, मेरे मुल्क में जो है जिस शख्स ने ये कहा कि सब ठीक हो जाएगा, आई वुड लाइक टू आस्क हिम.
We would all like to ask him. We would all like to
ask him. फ्लोर ऑफ द हाउस में मैं अब ये बात करने को तैयार हूँ कि इससे बुला के पूछा जाए कि आपने ये कहा था, फरमाया था, आप जरा आके बताते ना ऑन द फ्लोर ऑफ द हाउस.
Now, Pakistan is in complete chaos, like I said, free fall, and it's on multiple fronts. Let me break it down for you and tell you exactly how that is happening. As far as the economic crisis go, like I've told you, Pakistan is on the verge of bankruptcy. The food inflation at Pakistan is at 36%. There are no funds to feed the Pak army. As far as diplomacy goes, Pakistani Prime Minister has told the Foreign Ministry to cut down expenditure of embassies abroad. As I showed you also, visuals of a designated terrorist that was seen in Rawalpindi in full public view, even being guarded by the army and ISI cadre there. So Pakistan clearly is a safe haven for terror groups and terrorists that flourish on their soil. So it's a multifaceted issue that Pakistan faces. The military establishment, the civilian government there have absolutely no control on what is happening. In the end, it is the common man of Pakistan that suffers because the economy is in doldrums. Siddhant continues to be with me. And Siddhant, clearly Pakistan has no money to feed its poor, feed the people of the country, feed the army be as it is. They have no money for their diplomatic missions, but they have money to shield designated terrorists and terror groups and let them flourish on their soil.
Well, look, till last week, Pakistan had hopes from IMF. In fact, the staff level agreement, which was expected to be signed between the government of Pakistan and IMF, wasn't signed, and teams had left midway in the middle of the review. And in fact, there wasn't any positive response from the IMF team. So surely that is going to take time. The 9th installment from IMF is going to take time. Now, what other options are left before Pakistan? Because ultimately, the government has to run the country. So now the possible options left before them is A, to cut the defense budget, B, to cut the budget of the foreign offices across the globe. And in fact, they are doing that. They have asked their foreign offices across the globe to reduce the expenditure. They have also reduced the expenditure that the government makes on each and every Jawan of Pakistani army. So that budget has also been brought down. Then, as you rightly said, the deep state. Now, deep state is still active. Look, on one end, the country is cash strapped. On one end, the economy is in doldrums. But on the other end, Pakistan is doing what it is known for, giving support and providing land to the terrorist organization. And deep state is still active. Now, this fresh video of Sayyid Salahuddin camping in Rawalpindi, openly taking part in namaz-e-janaza, and rubbing shoulders with the senior ISI cadre in Rawalpindi. It again proves that despite being in the back shape, despite the economy not doing so good, Pakistan is committed to promote terrorism. Pakistan is committed to give shelter to terrorists on their land. And again, they have been caught red-handed. And in the footage that have been accessed by us, it could be seen that how Sayyid Salahuddin is rubbing shoulders with the top cadre of ISI. Also, the Indian intelligence agencies are telling us that they are interpreting this video, and in fact, they are going to raise this issue on international platform. Because what Pakistan does is that they keep FATF happy. They do the compliance of FATF. They tell the world global community that they are fighting terrorism. They are the victim of terrorism. And for that, they take name of Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan. They say that, look, how terror strikes are taking place in our country, how terrorists are coming from Afghanistan. But they never accept what they are doing. They never accept what their deep state is doing. So again, they have been caught red-handed, and this video is getting viral on social media platform where Hizbul commander can be seen openly taking part in Namaz-e-Janaza, which
Yes.
took place in Rawalpindi. So
Yes, and that too
Pakistan
doesn't
is
come
not
as
going
any
to
surprise
change
as
its
far
character.
as exactly.
Pakistan
Pakistan
is
is
not
not
going
going
to
to change its color. That's exactly how Pakistan has been. There has been an understanding between the terror organizations and the army there and the deep state, and that is going to continue. But Siddhant, thank you so much for getting us the latest as far as the multiple crises that face Pakistan. Senior fellow at the ORF, Sushant Sareen, joins me on this broadcast. Major General Dhruv Katoch will also be joining us shortly. But Sushant Sareen, like we were discussing, Siddhant and I, it's no surprise that Pakistan is in the state it is in. Most of it is out of its own behavior. And even as they keep cutting down expenditure on multiple fronts, they have no money for feeding the soldiers now, as we are reporting. They have no money for their embassies abroad. Several ministers are going without salary for months, but they clearly have money to keep the army going, to keep a certain section just to protect terror groups and terrorists on their soil.
Yeah, and that's not surprising because that is what the Pakistani state is all about. Some people, it's nothing novel what I'm going to say, that most states have an army. Pakistan is an army with a state. And that's been there for ever since Pakistan has come into creation. So the army gets the primacy. The objectives or the policies of the army get a primacy. And terrorism is one of their prime, foreign policy instruments. Number one. Number two, it is increasingly becoming a kind of a revenue generator for them. Because the more terrorism there is, the more they can show that, the world needs to come and give them money. Otherwise, the terrorists will take over. So I think there is a method to this madness. But I think it is also important to understand how deeply embedded this whole jihadist philosophy is in Pakistan. At a time when they crib about what is happening to them from Afghanistan, we forget that the current defense minister, Khwaja Asif, has been one of the acolytes of the Taliban. He was one of the guys who used to laud the Taliban on his Twitter accounts and in his interviews when he was not in government. He used to take pot shots at the Americans and at the other Western forces in Afghanistan when attacks were happening or when negotiations were taking place. Now, this man is the defense minister and he has now gone to negotiate with the Taliban about peace in Pakistan. So you can understand how messed up the whole system is.
And it's interesting, sorry to interrupt you there, but it's interesting that just today, as you speak of Khwaja Asif, he has come out on television in Pakistan, blamed the former ISI DG. He says Faiz Hamid is responsible for the rise of the TTP.
Look, the reality is everybody in Pakistan is responsible for what is happening in Pakistan. Why blame it on Faiz Hamid? Because he's an easy target right now. But while Faiz Hamid was, orchestrating the whole Taliban invasion or occupation of Afghanistan, it was people like Khwaja Asif who were egging them on and who were lauding the Taliban's military prowess over the Americans. It was people like Shahbaz Sharif, people like Bilawal Bhutto. Even the other day, he said, no, the Afghan Taliban are really nice guys. It's only the Pakistani Taliban who are bad guys, right? Each one of them has been responsible for it. And Faiz Hamid wasn't acting on his own. The entire Pakistan army brass was in on it. You can't say that Faiz Hamid was on his own doing. ISI is not an organization which is independent of the Pakistan army. It is a part and parcel of the Pakistan army. It falls under the Pakistan army. The entire officer corps of the ISI is Pakistan army. They come and go into the ISI, go back into the army. Their promotions depend upon staying on the right side of the Pakistan army hierarchy. So to imagine that these guys were carrying out their own private war and the Pakistan army was lily white and, completely pure and was not involved in all of this, that's utter nonsense. So each one of them has been involved, but Faiz Hamid, because of his political affiliations, is now an easy target. These guys will not go after the other officers who are still serving and who still probably have a bit of a menace as far as the civilians are concerned. So yeah, Khwaja Asif, like a typical coward, is taking a pot shot at a convenient target, a soft target. But he himself cannot absolve himself or he cannot absolve his other colleagues behind what is happening
Absolutely,
inside
because one
Pakistan.
person can't be blamed for the Frankenstein that Pakistan has created. It is those snakes in the backyard that Hillary Clinton had spoken of, Major Katosh, that are biting them. And they still don't stop. They still don't learn. There was an FATF sword that was hanging on their head, and they made this entire farce about how they're acting against terror groups and terrorists acting on their soil. They tried to put some behind bars, claimed it was house arrest. But we all know the reality of that sham.
Yes, absolutely. You see, this is not something, the problem which Pakistan is facing is not something which has happened in the last 3 to 6 months. It is something which originated more than 30 years ago, and every year it has started becoming worse and worse. It is just recently, in the last 2 to 3 years, that the impact has become far greater. Firstly, because of the 2 years of the COVID pandemic, and then the floods which Pakistan has received last year. Now, the cumulative effect of their policies on terrorism or in giving support to terrorism as a tool of foreign policy, one, the political discord which is taking place in the country, two, and their faulty economic policies, all of them have come together, which is why Pakistan is in this mess. And as I had mentioned earlier in one of my programs, they have crossed the tipping point. Now, even good governance will not get them back. So they are in a very, very serious situation. And if with the best of efforts and the best of governance, they will be in a quagmire for the next 5 to 10 years. After that, if they don't get good governance, I'm afraid they will be out. To blame any one person is totally not correct. This is an institutionalized policy which Pakistan has been following. It is not something which is a brainchild of any one individual. Every general of the Pakistan army, every politician in Pakistan is responsible for the mess they are in. Poonam.
Absolutely. And as the crises mount, Sushant Sareen, and if this is going to continue for a few years together before they actually get their act together, are we going to see a cascading effect of that in the region? Is that something that India should also be wary of?
No, I don't. I don't particularly fear that because look, the thing is that as the Pakistani state weakens, it will be so embroiled in its own internal struggles for survival that I don't think it'll have much of a bandwidth to push anything India's way or indulge in any adventurism. And if they were to do something like that, then I think the Indian armed forces have enough capability of actually giving them a major, bloody nose. And probably break an arm and a leg as well. So I think the Pakistanis would understand that that is not going to happen. They cannot afford something like that. Beyond that, I think there is very little connectivity or interaction or engagement between the countries for it to start having an impact on us. The Pakistanis will stew in their own juices. And I don't see why any tears need to be shed in India over the predicament of the Pakistanis. After all, there has been nothing good that has come our way from Pakistan over the last 75 years. And there's only utter filth which has come our way. And if some of it was to come again, I think the template has been set in terms of the surgical strikes and in terms of the Balakot strikes. That template will come into play. The Pakistanis, if they want something like that to happen, all right. The other thing, Poonam, again, which is very important. So, for example, we currently have a ceasefire on the LOC. I think it works well. I think it's a sensible thing to do. But, for example, if the Pakistanis were to start ratcheting up tension and we were to, that the ceasefire was to go bust and the firing was to start all over again, it's a very expensive business. You can ask General Katoch how expensive that is, right? Do the Pakistanis have the money? Your own report says they don't have money to feed their soldiers anymore. They don't have money for anything. Do they have money to expend that level of ammunition on something as banal, if I might use that word, as cross-border firing along the LOC? It's a horrendously expensive business. So I don't think they really have that space anymore to indulge in adventurism. So I think we should focus on our development. We should focus on our growth. We should focus on bringing in social harmony in India.
Yes.
We should focus on making India a great country and not bother about the nuisance that Pakistan represents to the world and to the region, because it really doesn't affect us.
Right, it may not affect us, but this is something that India and the world will have to talk about, because this kind of support coming in to terror groups and to designated terrorists in Pakistan is not new. There have been several times that Pakistan has been reprimanded on global stages, but nothing unfortunately changes. But I thank you both gentlemen for joining us here on this broadcast with your perspective. We are staying with Pakistan as more news is trickling in. Pakistan's former foreign minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi has now been arrested in Lahore, is the latest that we are gathering. This is over the Jail Bharo movement that Imran Khan and his party had announced. Siddhant, my colleague, is joining us for more details on this. Yes, Siddhant.
Well, yes. So Imran Khan has been making this accusation on incumbent government of political victimization. And in fact, this entire movement has been launched by Imran Khan's party today, and we are getting to know that Shah Mahmood Qureshi has been taken into custody by the local police. And in fact, this entire movement has been launched because the government of Shehbaz Sharif has been slapping multiple cases on leaders of Imran Khan's party, which include Fawad Chaudhry, Azam Swati, Shehbaz Gill, and many others. And in fact, many other Karyakartas and in fact the workers are also being harassed by police. So this is an acquisition which Imran Khan has been making from day one. In fact, some of the party workers are facing agency heat in Pakistan. Their houses, their buildings have also been raided. So to register a protest, this entire movement has been launched by Imran Khan, and Shah Mahmood Qureshi have already been arrested. So the idea about behind Jail Bharo Andolan is that since government wants all the leaders from Imran Khan's party to be in jail, or government is trying to implicate leaders in one or the other case. So we ourselves will go and give custody to police, and will fill the jails of Pakistan. So that was an idea with which Imran Khan has launched this movement. Shah Mahmood Qureshi has already been arrested. In fact, the other senior leaders are also going to give arrest to the police in Lahore, and in fact at the local level also, the local units have also organized this. So they are also going to give arrest. So yes, so country's economy is in doldrums. Nothing is going right in the country, and internal, the opposition is also a challenge for Shehbaz Sharif government.
Absolutely, and elections are just around the corner in Pakistan, and political hectic development there taking place for the moment. Siddhant, thank you so much for getting us the latest on that. We're shifting focus now to India, where the battle for the 2024 Lok Sabha elections is heating up. Amid Mamata Banerjee and KCR's national ambition plans, Congress has now pitched itself as the glue to bind the opposition. Congress chief Mallikarjun Kharge today came out and said that an alliance government will be formed at the centre in 2024 and Congress will be leading that alliance. He further said that Congress has been in regular discussions with like-minded parties and that defeating BJP is critical in order to save democracy and to save the constitution. Now remember, this comes a week after JDU chief Nitish Kumar said that he's waiting for Congress's signal to start work for uniting the opposition parties. But even as the Congress pitches itself as the fulcrum of the opposition, there are many others within the opposition like the BRS and the TMC that would like to see themselves as the glue.
You are in democracy, you should remember, you are not a autocrat, you are not a dictator. You are elected by people and people will teach you lesson in 2024. The alliance government will come in center. Congress will lead. We are talking with other parties because otherwise the democracy and constitution will go.
If you vote for TMC, vote for TMC. And it's a challenge that we will defeat BJP in the 24 election. It is all commitment and credibility.
The history of the TMC, you know the violence that takes place in Bengal. They came to Goa, spent huge amounts of money in Goa. And the idea was to help the BJP.
In 2021 West Bengal election, when TMC was fighting BJP, your Congress, in alliance with CPN, played a role of B team of BJP. They tried to divide the anti-Trinamool, anti-BJP votes and give advantage to BJP. So, first face the mirror, then sitting in a wrong court, you shouldn't have make such statement.
हम तो चाहते हैं कि अधिक से अधिक लोग एकजुट हो जाए। ताजा पाए हुए हैं, पार्टी के माध्यम से आपके पार्टी के नेतृत्व को हम अनुरोध करेंगे कि जल्दी से जल्दी फैसला करिए और हम लोग को बुला करके बात कर लीजिए कि कहां और किनके साथ एकजुट होकर के अगला चुनाव लड़ना है। ये जिस दिन फैसला कर दीजिएगा और उसी दिन हम सब लोग एकजुट हो जाएंगे, हम मिल करके लड़ेंगे, तब जान लीजिए आप अच्छी तरह इनसे मुक्ति हो जाएगी। अगर मेरा सुझाव को अगर मान लीजिएगा, कई 100 के नीचे जाएंगे, जान लीजिए। और मेरा मसला नहीं मानिएगा तो क्या होगा आप जानिए, आप लोग जानिए, हमको।
Pallavi Ghosh, my colleague, now joins us for more on this. Now, Pallavi, we've seen such experiments in the past as well, and they've rarely worked. Given what kind of alliance the Congress wants to build and position itself as the fulcrum, there are many within the opposition that are not going to be ready to play second fiddle. So, is this alliance versus Modi in 2024 actually going to work?
Well, we just heard what the Trinamool Congress had to say, and there were some very scathing words coming in from Mamata Banerjee. But more than that, even Rahul Gandhi hitting up and TMC accusing it of so that if Congress party happens to be the nation, certainly Trinamool Congress unlikely to be a part of it. And I don't think after this we can expect any kind of a negotiations between AAP and Congress, or the BRS and Congress for that matter. So most of these parties are not just anti-BJP, but they are also anti-Congress, and that's where the beginning of the problem arises, where it talks about opposition front. So as of now, that certainly looks like a mirage, and this is something which suits politically the BJP, certainly.
Absolutely. It was just a few days ago where Prime Minister Modi had declared that "Main akela sab pe bhari hu." It looks like that really is going to be the case as far as 2024 goes. For the moment, Pallavi, thank you so much for getting us the latest on that. With that, we're slipping into a quick break here on this edition, but lots more lined up for you on Nation at 5. Do stay tuned.
Where the Ministry of Home Affairs has finally given its sanction to prosecute Deputy Chief Minister Manish Sisodia under the Prevention of Corruption Act in the FBU case. Now, Anjali, this is for our viewers. Back in 2015, when Aam Aadmi Party got a thumping majority in Delhi, these FBU units were created, and the allegation is that these FBU units were created going beyond the line. And in fact, no approval from the cabinet was taken. In fact, Manish Sisodia used to head Vigilance Department, and this particular proposal was moved by Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal. So this is the allegation. In fact, just a few days back, when CBI conducted a preliminary inquiry in this particular case, this particular report was sent to Lieutenant Governor, and in fact, in the note of Lieutenant Governor, it was mentioned that prima facie it's a big violation of not only the legislation but also this case is pertaining to corruption, and that is the reason why now we are learning that the sanction to prosecute Manish Sisodia is under the Prevention of Corruption Act. Also, if I can quote, Lieutenant General from that particular note, and I quote, "I am of considered view that the case requires to be further investigated by CBI deeply after registering a regular case. I therefore approve the proposal of Director of Vigilance to forward the request of CBI in respect of Manish Sisodia, Deputy Chief Minister." Now, we have seen a whole lot of political drama over this particular issue, where in fact, Bharatiya Janata Party said that this was the real intention of Aam Aadmi Party, and back in 2015, in fact, they were very clear that they are in the particular government to keep an eye on other political parties. They just want to track the developments. They just want to track the ministers of the central government. This was the initial allegation from the BJP. And in fact, the preliminary inquiry, several points were made in that preliminary inquiry that how initially 16 posts were created under the vigilance department. And even when, nobody, had that sort of power and, they went beyond the powers that were given in the legislation. And soon after that, while, LG recommended this particular case to Ministry of Home Affairs, now we are learning that, sanction to prosecute Manish Sisodia. In fact, now we are learning that a case would be registered against Manish Sisodia, and it would be a second case by CBI, because we know that how in the excise policy case, his name has been very much there in the FIR, and in fact, he's a very part of investigation. On 26th of February, he's going to appear before CBI. So this is the second case. It will be important as to how Aam Aadmi Party would react to this, but this is an important development where, in fact, MHA has approved the sanction to prosecute Deputy Chief Minister Manish Sisodia.
Pallavi, can you tell our viewers why exactly did Aam Aadmi Party set up the feedback unit back in 2015?
So the whole idea of the feedback unit, or the FBU as they call it, is to address the grievances. We take feedback from the people, we try and find out what their concerns are, and we are going to address their grievances, which is fair enough. But unfortunately, what was also happening is that one, the FBU was set up only violation of the norms, not even gone through the usual rigmarole of going through the cabinet, informing the LG's office, so on and so forth. But worse is what it was discovered was that it was actually being used to target the political opponents of the Aam Aadmi Party, which included also the BJP plus the Congress. So there's always this allegation that you are using this unit actually to snoop in on the activities of the political opponents and use it for your own political advantage, and possibly also as far as your governance is concerned. That is where the objection has come to. So the process which of course goes to is that the LG has to seek the sanction of the MHA, recommends it to the Home Ministry that we should go ahead and prosecute the Deputy Chief Minister because he was the one who had ordered it. And once the Home Ministry gives that prosecution to the CBI to register an FIR, it's just now a process which is going to be put into place ASAP, and this would be seen as a huge setback, and I would say a very, very serious allegation against the Deputy Chief Minister and eventually on the Chief Minister.
We have BJP's RP Singh joining us on the story. Sir, now Manish Sisodia is in fresh trouble and the Ministry of Home Affairs has given sanction to prosecute him in the snooping case. How would you like to react on this?
Well, they have used public money for the political objective. And that's why the case need to be pursued and followed by the agencies. And how they use that money and with what objectives, that will be clear by after the investigation happened. But yes, they were snooping on the political opponents and the bureaucrats, which they are not supposed to. So let's see how does the things happen. But yes, it's a very welcome step that any misuse of public exchequer, money from the public exchequer, should be prosecuted, should be investigated.
We also have political analyst Ravi Srivastav joining us on this story. Sir, how would you like to react that the Ministry of Home Affairs has now given sanction to prosecute Deputy Chief Minister Manish Sisodia in the snooping case?
I'm fully aware of this case, and the first thing I must tell you that these are all simple intimidating tactics by the BJP-ruled government via the LG, PK Saxena, who is more to the king, and they are creating this atmosphere. You remember last Friday after that, the slap from the Supreme Court on the mayoral election, the second day only the CBI summoned Manish Sisodia. Somehow they want to catch hold of him and show to the people that these people are as corrupt as we are. But this is not going to work because Manish Sisodia has been raided by the CBI, inquired by the CBI, and even his name is not appearing in that excise case. So they are somehow trying to nab him in one or the other cases. And this tactics is well understood by the people, which has elected Aam Aadmi Party not once, twice, thrice, 4 times in Delhi. So this is not going to work anyway. And whatever this kind of pressure tactics the government wants to apply on the Manish Sisodia, he will emerge more stronger. There is no worry about it. Let them prosecute him. Let them file a case. Let them fight it, ultimately the whole thing goes to the court of law. And the law ultimately prevails. So if there is a false case, this is not going to stand in the court. The snooping case was an absolutely false case. The feedback unit was stopped after 6-7 months only, and is trying to say that they were snooping via that particular unit on the people and the other politicians, the BJP politicians and others. This is absolutely baseless, concocted, fabricated, and not going to stand the scrutiny of law.
There's more trouble for Delhi Deputy Chief Minister Manish Sisodia in the snooping case. According to LG office sources to CNN News 18, the Ministry of Home Affairs has now given sanction to prosecute Deputy Chief Minister Manish Sisodia under the Prevention of Corruption Act in the Feedback Unit snooping case in Delhi. LG VK Saxena had approved the CBI's request for prosecution sanction.
भारतीय जनता पार्टी इसका स्वागत करती है। सवाल उठता है, अरविंद केजरीवाल जी, आपने सीक्रेट सर्विस फंड क्यों बनाया था? आपको बहुत सारे सवालों के जवाब देने।
देखिए, पूरी तरह से फर्जी केस है। ये लोग पूरी तरह से आम आदमी पार्टी और मनीष जी के पीछे पड़ गए हैं।
Trouble seems to be mounting for Arvind Kejriwal and his party, specifically Manish Sisodia, as there is a fresh development that's coming to the fore in the Delhi Snoopgate scandal. The Ministry of Home Affairs has now given sanction to prosecute Delhi's Deputy Chief Minister Manish Sisodia under the Prevention of Corruption Act in the Feedback Unit snooping case. Now, this comes even as Sisodia is already under the radar of the CBI in the excise policy alleged scam. The Aam Aadmi Party has come out and slammed the central government, claiming these cases are false and this is nothing but desperation by the BJP as they are scared of Aam Aadmi Party and Kejriwal's popularity. BJP hit right back, claiming that this is about propriety and probe and the Aam Aadmi Party should face the law.
मुझे तो ऐसा लगता है कि ये राष्ट्रीय सुरक्षा का मामला है और मनीष सिसोदिया को सीबीआई तुरंत गिरफ्तार करे और इस जासूसी कांड की तह तक जाए और अरविंद केजरीवाल को भी इस जांच के दायरे में लाया जाए, ये भारतीय जनता पार्टी की मांग है।
I think that approximately 200 cases have been registered against Aam Aadmi Party in the last 8 years. So we have now reached the 201st case as well. What does it show? It shows that the BJP is scared of Aam Aadmi Party, of Arvind Kejriwal, and that is why one false case after another is being filed. In these last 8 years, has BJP been able to present the evidence of corruption of even 1 rupee by Aam Aadmi Party? No, they have not. So it's very clear they are scared by the growing popularity of Aam Aadmi Party.
भारतीय जनता पार्टी निश्चित तौर के ऊपर कई मौकों के ऊपर ये बात उठाती हुई आई थी कि इल्लीगल तरीके से जिस प्रकार से अरविंद केजरीवाल मनीष सिसोदिया ने एक यूनिट बनाया और उसके अंदर कैमरास खरीदे गए और तमाम अफसरों को अपॉइंट किया गया था इल्लीगल तरीके से। सवाल उठता है, अरविंद केजरीवाल जी, आपने सीक्रेट सर्विस फंड क्यों बनाया था?
अपने प्रतिद्वंदियों को झूठों केस में फंसाना जो है, ये हारे हुए और डरे हुए लोगों का काम होता है। अब जैसे जैसे आम आदमी पार्टी आगे बढ़ेगी, इस तरीके के और केस जो है, झूठे केस हम पे लगाए जाएंगे। ये केस बिल्कुल झूठा है। मुझे लगता है कि ये सिर्फ आम आदमी पार्टी और मनीष जी के पीछे पड़े हुए हैं।
ये चौथा मामला है भ्रष्टाचार का, जिसमें मनीष सिसोदिया जांच के घेरे में है। उनके ऊपर भ्रष्टाचार के आरोपों की जांच हो रही है, लेकिन शायद वो सत्येंद्र जैन की तरह कुर्सी छोड़ेंगे नहीं, बल्कि कुर्सी में बैठे बैठे ही तिहाड़ जेल जाएंगे। मैं यहां पर यह बात कहना चाहता हूं कि ये जो स्नूपिंग केस है, इस केस के सच जब सामने आएंगे तो बहुत सारे लोगों को हैरानी होने वाली है, क्योंकि आम आदमी पार्टी में केजरीवाल और मनीष सिसोदिया ने सरकार की स्नूपिंग मशीनरी तैयार की अपने ही पार्टी के पीएसी के मेंबर्स के जासूसी करने के लिए।
पूरी तरह से फर्जी केस है। ये लोग पूरी तरह से आम आदमी पार्टी और मनीष जी के पीछे पड़ गए हैं। अडानी के ऊपर जांच नहीं होती, उसने लाखों करोड़ों रुपए का घोटाला किया, उसके ऊपर कोई जांच नहीं हो रही है। सिर्फ और सिर्फ आम आदमी पार्टी और मनीष जी के पीछे पड़ चुके हैं। जैसे जैसे आम आदमी पार्टी बढ़ती चली जा रही है, ये लगातार आम आदमी पार्टी को टारगेट कर रहे हैं। आज पूरे देश में सबको पता है भाई कि मोदी जी को टक्कर केजरीवाल जी दे सकते हैं। सिर्फ इस डर से ये लगातार फर्जी केसेस कर रहे हैं और इस तरह के केसेस और भी बढ़ेंगे।
Akash is with me for more on this. Now, Akash, break this down for our viewers. What happens next? The prosecutional nod has been given by the central government, but what happens next? Is Manish Sisodia staring at imminent arrest?
Not immediate arrest, but all eyes are on CBI now, Poonam. So it is expected that CBI would be registering a case, and in case they are naming Manish Sisodia in the initial reports, the FIR, then Manish Sisodia would be called for the interrogation, and in that, as per the merits of the case, he may or may not be arrested in the future. But as of now, Aam Aadmi Party is anticipating that he would be arrested by the Central Bureau of Investigation. Now, Poonam, you see, political aspect of this story is very much important and interesting. On one hand, we have Aam Aadmi Party, which is calling it a fake case and is saying that central government and central agencies are after Manish Sisodia just because he is doing some good work for Delhi. On the other hand, we have BJP. BJP is in fact saying that CBI should not limit, its investigation and its inquiry to Manish Sisodia. Because, fact of the matter is that this particular proposal back in year 2015 was moved by CM Arvind Kejriwal. And that's the reason why BJP is now demanding that, CBI should investigate the particular case and should also interrogate Arvind Kejriwal. So it would be interesting to see the investigation part, of course, where it is expected that CBI would be registering a case very soon. And on the other hand, we are expecting that now BJP would be, protesting against it because they are demanding immediate arrest of Manish Sisodia, and not only the arrest, but also they are demanding resignation of Manish Sisodia.
Yes. But it's all political vendetta is what the Aam Aadmi Party claims. The war of words only escalating. But for the moment, thank you so much for getting us the latest, Akash. Staying with the national capital, 77 days after MCD election results were out and after 3 Delhi Civic House meetings, we finally have a mayor in the national capital. Aam Aadmi Party's candidate Shelley Oberoi is the new mayor. Aam Aadmi Party won the mayoral election with 150 votes today. Shelley was elected as the new mayor after over 2 hours of voting. The Aam Aadmi Party leader celebrated victory, congratulating the new mayor. Now remember, this was the 4th time that the House meeting was convened. 3 times it was delayed as ruckus ensued inside the Civic Centre. The House was earlier summoned on the 6th of January, 25th and then the 6th of February. However, proceedings could not happen. Finally today, over 2 months later, Delhi gets a mayor.
दिल्ली की जनता ने एक दिल्ली को स्वच्छ और सुंदर बनाने का सपना देखा है और हम सबको मिलकर इस सपने को पूरा करना है। हम सबको मिलकर दिल्ली की जनता की उम्मीदों को पूरा करना है। इसीलिए आप सबके आशीर्वाद और सहयोग की बहुत जरूरत है।
आज की जो जीत है वो जनता की जीत है। आज की तारीख में कहा जा सकता है कि गुंडे जो थे वो हार गए और जनता जो है जीत गई। ईमानदारी की, सच्चाई की और शराफत की आज जीत हुई है और जो गुंडागर्दी थी उसकी आज बहुत बड़ी हार हुई है। हम पहले दिन से कह रहे थे कि आम आदमी पार्टी को जनता ने वोट देके जिताया है, मेयर भी आम आदमी पार्टी की ही बनेगी। हमने पहले ही कहा था कि ये आम आदमी पार्टी के सिपाही हैं, ये अन्ना हजारे के आंदोलन से निकलने वाले लोग हैं, ये अरविंद केजरीवाल की एक एक बात पे जान देने वाले लोग हैं, ये लोग बिकने वाले लोग नहीं हैं।
अरविंद केजरीवाल के कुशल नेतृत्व की जीत है। अरविंद केजरीवाल जी ने जिस तरह से दिल्ली के 2 करोड़ लोगों की सेवा की, उसकी बदौलत एमसीडी में बड़े बहुमत से
We're shifting focus now to more news coming in. India and China have held their 26th meeting of the Working Mechanism for Consultation and Coordination on the India-China border. This was held in Beijing today, where the LAC, of course, came up. They reviewed the situation in the western sector of the border areas and discussed proposals for disengagement in remaining areas as well. This is the confirmation that has come to the fore from the Ministry of External Affairs here in India, that these talks have taken place at a diplomatic level. Siddhant, my colleague, is now joining us for more details. Now, Siddhant, we've seen several such rounds of military engagement that has happened between the two sides about de-escalation at the LAC. We're now given to understand that diplomatically as well, there are meetings that were held in Beijing.
Well, yes, that's right. So basically, till now we were hearing about the military level meetings that took place between India and China. But this is a release which has come from Ministry of External Affairs. And in fact, the release says that the 26th meeting of the Working Mechanism for Consultation and Coordination on India-China Border Affairs was held on 22nd February, that is today, in Beijing. And the delegation was being led by Joint Secretary East Asia. And in fact, two sides reviewed the situation along the line of actual control in the western sector of India-China border areas and discussed proposals for disengagement in the remaining areas in an open and constructive manner, which would help in restoration of peace and tranquility along the LAC in the western sector and create conditions for restoration of normalcy in the bilateral relations. To achieve this objective in accordance with the existing bilateral agreements and protocol, they agreed to hold the next 18th round of senior commanders meeting at an early date. So this release has come from Ministry of External Affairs, and so there is one military level meeting that took place at the time of the disengagement. Now this is a meeting which has happened at a diplomatic level, where a delegation which has been led by Joint Secretary East Asia was sent to Beijing, and in fact both sides sat and hold this meeting where the options were explored of disengagement in the remaining areas, and in fact the ME also has to say that this meeting was constructive, and it would help in restoration of peace and tranquility along the LAC. Also, the aim of this meeting is to create conditions for restoration of normalcy in bilateral relations between India and China. So very significant development taking place as far as Indo-China relations are concerned. And perhaps since 2019, this is for the first time that at diplomatic level, the meeting has taken place in Beijing, and both India and China have sat together to discuss the border issue, to resolve the border issue. And since Indian side has come out with a release of this 26th meeting of the Working Mechanism for Consultation and Coordination on India-China border affairs, it appears that Indian side is quite satisfied with the way meeting has taken place in Beijing, because it would also lead to the restoration of normalcy in the bilateral
Absolutely. Status quo needs to be maintained. It cannot be unilaterally changed, as China has often tried to do, and which is why these talks are being held. Do stay on with me. An independent China strategist, Andrew KP Long, is with me on this broadcast. Sushant Sareen of the ORF also with me. But Dr. Long, let me ask you, there have been several rounds of talks between India and China, both diplomatically and militarily. But it's been over 2 years since things are in discussion as far as disengagement goes. There are still some sticking points that we need to work out.
Well, the years of so-called border talks on the ground and also through military and other diplomatic exchanges is a story of frustration on both sides, because the commanders in the field, of course, they are they want to push for the maximum for fear, because they are not empowered to grant any kind of concessions at all on both sides. So I think that this has resulted in a great deal of frustration in the eyes of the leadership on both countries, because territorial integrity is as important to India as it is to China. So I think that the latest resumption of talks, I think that there is a feedback to the leadership in both countries and then clear guidance is given to work out some sort of modus operandi. In other words, guardrails and also mechanisms, hotlines, and various other issues that have caused the problem in the past. For example, road building, military build-up in certain sensitive areas, the kind of do's and don'ts that can put the relationship on a more even keel. But I'm not optimistic that this will solve the whole problem, because the border issues has been around for many, many years.
Yes.
I don't think we should be too optimistic, but at least that is an opportunity to put things on, as I said, on an even keel.
Sure. Sushant Sareen also joins us on this broadcast. Sushant Sareen, if you heard what Dr. Long was saying, do you think we should not be too optimistic about this? There's also the fact that China has tried to unilaterally change status quo along parts of the line of actual control.
Yeah, I would agree that there's very little room for optimism right now. These are routine talks. The good thing is that these talks are continuing, that there's not been a breakdown of communication both at the military level as well as at the diplomatic level. But I don't think that diplomats at the level of the Joint Secretary level, at the level of the Joint Secretary or even at the level of the Corps commanders can actually decide the bigger issues about both border management as well as resolving some of the more vexing problems along the border. I think there has to be a degree of political direction and understanding for that. And unfortunately, that's not happening. Although we have engaged with the Chinese at the political level, but there doesn't seem to be any recognition in China that they need to resolve matters with India. I think the Chinese understanding seems to be that they can continue to push India, then reach some kind of a tactical agreement, and then, adopt that salami slicing approach and then move forward and then carry out the whole act all over again. But I think somewhere along the line, the Indians have started drawing a red line. And clearly, the way the forces are now arranged around the border suggests that the Indians are not likely to back down, at least, and not allow the Chinese to continue with their old tactics.
Yes.
So there is a kind of a stalemate as of now, which I agree can only be broken through a political level dialogue. But beyond that, I really don't see much coming out of these
one step at a time, though, and those steps are being taken both diplomatically and militarily. Sushant Sareen and Dr. Long, thank you so much for speaking with us here on CNN News 18 and sharing your perspective. With that, it's a wrap from me on this edition. But news and updates continue here on CNN News 18. Don't go anywhere.
Home Affairs to prosecute Manish Sisodia.
Oh yes, so it is the biggest development. In fact, after the approval and recommendation of Lieutenant Governor, this is the development that we are getting, where the Ministry of Home Affairs has finally given its sanction to prosecute Deputy Chief Minister Manish Sisodia under the Prevention of Corruption Act in the FBU case. Now, Anjali, this is for our viewers. Back in 2015, when Aam Aadmi Party got a thumping majority in Delhi, these FBU units were created, and the allegation is that these FBU units were created going beyond the line. And in fact, no approval from the cabinet was taken. In fact, Manish Sisodia used to head Vigilance Department, and this particular proposal was moved by Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal. So this is the allegation. In fact, just a few days back, when CBI conducted a preliminary inquiry in this particular case, this particular report was sent to Lieutenant Governor, and in fact, in the note of Lieutenant Governor, it was mentioned that prima facie it's a big violation of not only the legislation but also this case is pertaining to corruption, and that is the reason why now we are learning that the sanction to prosecute Manish Sisodia is under the Prevention of Corruption Act. Also, if I can quote, Lieutenant General from that particular note, and I quote, "I am of considered view that the case requires to be further investigated by CBI deeply after registering a regular case. I therefore approve the proposal of Director of Vigilance to forward the request of CBI in respect of Manish Sisodia, Deputy Chief Minister. Now, we have seen a whole lot of political drama over this particular issue where, in fact, Bharatiya Janata Party said that this was the real intention of Aam Aadmi Party, and back in 2015, in fact, they were very clear that they are in the particular government to keep an eye on other political parties. They just want to track the developments. They just want to track the ministers of the central government. This was the initial allegation from the BJP, and in fact, the preliminary inquiry. Several points were made in that preliminary inquiry that how initially 16 posts were created under the vigilance department, and even when nobody had that sort of power, and they went beyond the powers that were given in the legislation. And soon after that, while LG recommended this particular case to Ministry of Home Affairs, now we are learning that sanction to prosecute Manish Sisodia. In fact, now we are learning that a case would be registered against Manish Sisodia, and it would be a second case by CBI, because we know that how in the excise policy case, his name has been very much there in the FIR, and in fact, he's a very part of investigation. On 26th of February, he's going to appear before CBI. So this is the second case. It will be important as to how Aam Aadmi Party would react to this, but this is an important development where, in fact, MHA has approved the sanction to prosecute Deputy Chief Minister Manish Sisodia.
Pallavi, can you tell our viewers why exactly did Aam Aadmi Party set up the feedback unit back in 2015?
So the whole idea of the feedback unit, or the FBU as they call it, is to address the grievances. We take feedback from the people, we try and find out what their concerns are, and we are going to address their grievances, which is fair enough. But unfortunately, what was also happening is that the FBU was set up only violation of the norms, not even gone through the usual rigmarole of going through the cabinet, informing the LG's office, so on and so forth. But worse is, what it was discovered was that it was actually being used to target the political opponents of the Aam Aadmi Party, which included also the BJP plus the Congress. So there's always this allegation that you are using this unit actually to snoop in on the activities of the political opponents and use it for your own political advantage, and possibly also as far as your governance is concerned. That is where the objection has come to. So the process, which of course goes to, is that the LG has to seek the sanction of the MHA, recommends it to the Home Ministry that we should go ahead and prosecute the Deputy Chief Minister because he was the one who had ordered it. And once the Home Ministry gives that prosecution to the CBI to register an FIR, it's just now a process which is going to be put into place ASAP, and this would be seen as a huge setback, and I would say a very, very serious allegation against the Deputy Chief Minister and eventually on the Chief Minister.
We have BJP's RP Singh joining us on this story. Sir, now Manish Sisodia is in fresh trouble, and the Ministry of Home Affairs has given sanction to prosecute him in the snooping case. How would you like to react on this?
Well, they have used public money for the political objective, and that's why the case need to be pursued and followed by the agencies. And how they use that money and with what objectives, that will be clear by after the investigation happened. But yes, they were snooping on the political opponents and the bureaucrats, which they are not supposed to. So let's see how does the things happen. But yes, it's a very welcome step that any misuse of public exchequer, money from the public exchequer, should be prosecuted, should be investigated.
We also have political analyst Ravi Srivastav joining us on this story. Sir, how would you like to react that the Ministry of Home Affairs has now given sanction to prosecute Deputy Chief Minister Manish Sisodia in the snooping case?
I'm fully aware of this case, and the first thing I was tell you that these are all simple intimidating tactics by the BJP ruled government via the LG PK Saxena, who is more to the king, and they are creating this atmosphere. You remember last Friday, after that, the slap from the Supreme Court on the mayoral election, the second day only the CBI summoned Manish Sisodia. Somehow they want to catch hold of him and show to the people that these people are as corrupt as we are. But this is not going to work because Manish Sisodia has been raided by the CBI, inquired by the CBI, and even his name is not appearing in that excise case. So they are somehow trying to nab him in one or the other cases. And this tactics is well understood by the people, which has elected Aam Aadmi Party not once, twice, thrice, 4 times in Delhi. So this is not going to work anyway. And whatever this kind of pressure tactics the government wants to apply on the Manish Sisodia, he will emerge more stronger. There is no worry about it. Let them prosecute him. Let them file a case. Let them fight it. Ultimately, the whole thing goes to the court of law, and the law ultimately prevails. So if there is a false case, this is not going to stand in the court. The snooping case was an absolutely false case. The feedback unit was stopped after 6-7 months only, and is trying to say that they were snooping via that particular unit on the people and the other politicians, the BJP politicians and others. This is absolutely baseless, concocted, fabricated, and not going to stand the scrutiny of law.
There's more trouble for Delhi Deputy Chief Minister Manish Sisodia in the snooping case. According to LG office sources to CNN News 18, the Ministry of Home Affairs has now given sanction to prosecute Deputy Chief Minister Manish Sisodia under the Prevention of Corruption Act in the field.
Welcome everyone. Thanks a lot for staying with us. You're watching Plain Speak with me, Shivani Gupta. Less than 400 days to go for the 2024 general elections and the opposition camp is heating up. While addressing a rally in poll-bound Nagaland, Congress Chief Mallikarjun Kharge made a big declaration. The leader of opposition in Rajya Sabha said a Congress-led opposition alliance will unseat the BJP in 2024. Congress maintains there cannot be any opposition big enough to take on Narendra Modi without the grand old party as a lead and fulcrum. The opposition doesn't agree. The likes of BRS, TMC, Aam Aadmi Party, Samajwadi Party and more have repeatedly said they have no faith in the Congress and its ability to beat the BJP and that Congress cannot assume a leadership role. But recently, Nitish Kumar did ask the Congress to take a lead in uniting the opposition. Bihar Chief Minister said that if the opposition comes together, then the Saffron Party, the BJP, cannot win more than 100 seats. There's no evidence